What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fire Sports Takes podcast. Loaded episode for the boys today. We're going to go over the first round of the NBA draft. We're going to talk a little bit of World Cup, and then we are going to get into which teams that finished last in their division last year in the NFL have the best chance to finish first this year. Finished first, whatever. Rough start. Basically, what we're going to do is there were 8 teams that finished last year. I'm going to rank them by most likely to finish first in their division this year to least likely to finish first. So which teams that finished last in their division last year have the best chance of turning this ship around? So loaded episode for you guys today. Let's start with round 1 of the NBA draft. And I'll tell you what, Adam Silver is easily the worst commissioner in all of sports. Why the fuck? And this isn't just an ESPN thing because the NFL draft is on ESPN. Why the fuck are you reading out? Oh, Julius Randle traded to the Nets. The Net, blah 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 blah. When one, it's not even the Nets pick, and everybody already fucking knows that. Also, this is a reoccurring theme with the NBA. They'll have the team that is still picking, even though we know they pick trades. They've traded the pick. Like at 13 today, it still said Miami. The whole time, even when they drafted the player, it said Miami. Why do they do that? Why does it piss me off is a whole nother reason, but why do they do that? The NFL, when there's a trade, the person in the production truck presses a button and there's a little animation that says, oh, trade happened, boom. It doesn't still say the Miami Heat are picking 13 when we've known for almost 24 fucking hours that that's the Bucks pick. Why is that like that? Same thing with the next Nets pick at 28. And every time there's a trade, it's like you have to jump through a million hoops to find out what team picked that player. It should be once the trade happens, you get the notification like the NFL draft. It's not rocket science, Adam Silver, the long necked alien looking fuck. It's not rocket science. I don't know if it's you, I don't know if it's your production staff, but if I don't know what it is, why we can't have a simple NBA draft. How there's always some type of thing that pisses me off when I watch the NBA draft and you talk too much. You talk too fucking much. We celebrate it, blah, 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 but just say the NFL draft has started. The Washington Wizards are on the clock. Whoa, and then get the fuck out of there. Nobody's there to see your face. You rat fuck. And I'm pretty sure he messed up reading LeBaron Philon in the Sixers pick. Messed up reading it. So you stink, Adam Silver. You stink. Your refs stink. The way you handle the draft stinks. Your in-season tournament stinks. Everything you try to do to fix tanking doesn't work. And that stinks is the reason the viewership is plummeting. It's because you fucking stink, Adam Silver. Worst GM in all of sports. And the NFL draft is like an enjoying watch. There's a pageantry to it. There's the production level, the production quality is just infinitely higher. They showed a video of Dirk Nowitzki talking to Haas Steinbach, who got picked by the Charlotte Hornets, and the video wasn't playing any fucking audio. How does that happen? It's the NBA fucking draft, okay? This isn't a high school or a college capstone media project where shit's gonna look unprofessional. This is the NBA fucking draft. I treat it like the NBA draft. You wonder why the NFL runs circles around you. It's because you don't take these little things seriously. And me, the degenerate fan, appreciates good production quality. And the NBA just simply doesn't do that with the NBA draft. It is pathetic. And Adam Silver's a bald, long-necked fuck. I wonder if he's married. Let's see. I would be stunned. Stunned. Actually, not really. He's probably rich. Adam Silver wife. Yikes. Let's move on. Let's keep it sports here. Let's keep it sports. Let's talk about it. NBA draft. I'm not going to do any winners or losers quite yet because we're going to wait for round 2 to happen. But I do think the Hornets had a terrific first round. And if you've been listening to me talk about college basketball back in January, February, and March, if you've been listening to me in the few NBA draft preview episodes, very few that I've done, you've known how I felt about Christian Anderson. I don't think there's a better fit for a guy like Christian Anderson than the Charlotte Hornets, who led the NBA in three-pointers made a year ago. The Texas Tech Red Raiders hucked threes. Whether it was him, Donovan Atwell, Jalen Petty, Lawan Watts, they hucked threes. High volume, high efficiency. They were one of the best high volume three-point shooting teams in the NBA last year. Christian Anderson, 8 threes a game, 41% from beyond the arc. incredibly efficient shooting the tray ball, and he's a willing passer, great passer, creates shots for others, 7 assists, 18 points per game in the Big 12 in a system that runs and guns and hucks threes. Well, the Charlotte Hornets run and gun and they huck threes, so many threes. In fact, that despite having a real traditional big, they were still top 5 in rebounding. And what else do they do in the first round? They go and get the guy that led Division One in rebounding in Heinz Steinbach, who can be a reliable force in the pick and roll, reliable force on the glass, 6'10" from Germany, 18 and 11 at Washington as a freshman last year. The Hornets had a really, really good draft, got some really good value pieces. I wouldn't say Christian Anderson was necessarily a position of need because they do have LaMelo Ball, who's going to be the primary ball handler, who's going to dish out assists. They have Con Knipple, LaMelo Ball, and now Christian Anderson. It's a little bit of an undersized backcourt. I have to throw Brandon Miller in there as well. So I don't know how Christian Anderson's going to fit into this team, but I'm sure he'll carve himself out a role as a really high-level three-point shooter who can come in. And honestly, like Christian Anderson, I don't want to say I'm not a LaMelo Ball can't play winning basketball narrative because he just hasn't played a full season and he hasn't been surrounded with a good team. But the Hornets now they have a good team, and I'll just say this: Christian Anderson doesn't take as many bad shots. Like he's definitely a more efficient player. He gets better looks than LaMelo does. Although LaMelo's no, makes tough shots too. He makes tough shots. It's not like yes, he takes bad shots, but he also makes them. Okay, he can contribute to winning basketball. That's why the Hornets had one of the best records in the NBA after the All Star break, partially because of LaMelo Ball, partially because of Con Knipple, Brandon Miller, and company. Right, but I'm telling you, Christian Anderson, Hans Steinbach, two really, really good value picks for this Charlotte Hornets team in the middle of the first round. I love what they did. Getting a guy that can fit and run and gun in this system right away is one of the best shooters in this draft, and then getting a guy who is dominant on the glass, can run the pick and roll at elite level. And they needed another big. I mean, Moose Diabate was okay. Ryan Kalkbrenner was okay, but Hans Steinbach really has good touch around the rim, can slash, can score, and is one of the best rebounders in the draft. I think the Hornets have knocked this draft out of the park. They are trending in a very, very good direction. Another team that I like is the Milwaukee Bucks. I really like what the Milwaukee Bucks did. They had two guys that I had in my top 10 prospects, and they got them at pretty good prices. Nate Amen at 13 can turn out to be terrific value. Even if he becomes like his ceiling is probably like a Brandon Ingram type, that would be you're getting a Brandon Ingram type of player at 14 is nasty. He needs to put on some LBs. He needs to become a little bit of a better slasher if he wants to be that BI, but he has a similar build with his size, his length, his athleticism. He is a really good jump shooter. He averaged 25 points per game in the SEC in the month of February. And I know I've regurgitated that statistic a gazillion times, but it is true. And it is worth noting because everybody likes to rip on Nate Ament for whatever reason. He developed, he got better. I think Nate Ament should have stayed for a year in Tennessee and went and played with Terrence Hill Jr., went and played with Juke Harris so that he can really thrive in an offense that isn't get the ball down low to Felix Okpara and JP Estrella, bang with Jacoby Gillespie, but it could be, okay, we're going to space the floor and we're just going to score and we're going to shoot the piss out of the rock like it's going to be next year with Tennessee with Juke Harris from Wake Forest, who one of the best scorers in the country last year, and Terrence Hill Jr., who played for VCU. If you guys remember, VCU came back against UNC in the round of 64. Terrence Hill Jr. had like 30. He was disgusting. I would have wished Nate Ament went back and stayed because I think if he played in a team like that could space the floor a little bit better than Tennessee Volunteers did last year, that would have been huge. Huge for not only his development, but for his draft stock, and he would have went higher than 13. But either way, Braden Burries, Josh Hart type of impact, awesome rebounder, great defender, leading scorer on an Arizona Wildcats team that only lost 3 games. Combine him with Nate Ament, I think the Bucks had a really, really good first round as well. And then obviously you have your top of the draft, right? I think the Clippers couldn't go Darius Acuff unless they were shipping Darius Garland because that would be a defensive nightmare. I think Keaton Wagler is a great, great running mate with Darius Garland because of his ability to facilitate, get everybody involved. He's not undersized like Acuff, although he is a little bit of a liability defensively. Nasty handle. I love Keaton Wagler to the Clippers. Michael Brown Jr. to the Nets. I wanted Darius Acuff. I made that known, but I also made it known that as long as it's Wagler, Michael Brown Jr., or Darius Acuff, I'm going to be A-okay with it. The Nets go with Michael Brown Jr., who's a little bit taller, probably has more range on his jump shot. I don't know if he can create his own shot and score the basketball as effectively as Darius Acuff can. Dealt with a little bit of an injury at Louisville, but nasty first step, really good burst, has a clip on him. not the most efficient, like not as an efficient a scorer as Keaton Wagler or Darius Acuff was, which is why I had him slightly below. But again, he has range. He can pull up from 35, not undersized, really good athlete, can catch a body getting down low, can really good slasher, all 3-level scorer. He's a dog. And then Darius Acuff getting sent to Sacramento to die. That sucks. I think that's the last place anybody wanted Darius Acuff to go, was Sacramento. And then the Atlanta Hawks getting a guy in Kingston Flemings who doesn't really have a jump shot, but has a really good pull-up midi. We'll see if that can translate in the NBA level, where it's a lot more athletic defenders, a lot longer defenders in the NBA. So I don't know if he'll be able to get to that jump shot and get to his mid-range as much as he did at Houston. Really good, really good athlete, though. Super quick, super fast, super shifty. So I do think he'll be able to create his own shot. I just don't know if he's going to be able to develop a 3-point shot, which he'll need to if he wants to be a plus starter in the NBA at the point guard position for a good time. So I think all those picks really, like, they're all solid. The only pick in the top tier that I did not agree with was the Memphis Grizzlies going with Cam Boozer over Caleb Wilson, and that's strictly off of style. I like Caleb Wilson's ceiling, his ability to slash, his ability to defend. I think he has a higher ceiling than Boozer, and everybody likes to talk about Boozer as he's NBA ready now. I think Caleb Wilson was really NBA ready to be a plus defender and a really good slasher and presence on the boards down low as a 4 immediately. He needs to develop a jump shot to be a really elite wing, which I think he can because he is a good free throw shooter, and that has a little bit of a correlation. I feel like if you're a good free throw shooter, you can become a good 3-point shooter. His mid-range jumper game is inconsistent, but when it's on, and he doesn't miss. His low post offensive game is nasty, and he's awesome in transition, really good finishing around the basket, freak athlete, really versatile defender. If I'm the Grizzlies, I would have went with him instead of Cam Boozer, but either way, I'm not going to nitpick here. And then in the middle rounds, there was I think there was some good stuff going on in the middle rounds. The middle of the first round, the Oklahoma City Thunder absolutely cleaned up on day one of the NBA draft. Not only do they get Ade Mara, who is one of the best defenders on the interior in this draft, so the best defense in the NBA gets the best defender in the draft, or at least the best rim protector, and they get some size at 7'4", really good touch around the basket as well. They get one of the best scorers in the draft in Bennett Sturts, and they get a top 5 scorer in the country in Abuka Okori, who was disgusting at Stanford. It's just nobody talked about him because Stanford stunk. The problem with Okori, he's 6 feet tall, genuinely undersized for an NBA point guard, but his ability to get to the rim for his size is unbelievable. It's Jalen Brunson-esque, his ability to finish around the rim for his size. His shot, his release is really quick. He can get anywhere he wants on the floor. One of the best handles in this year's draft. Abuka Okori is a dog, and they are just so deep. Now, they have so many guys that can score, and they're just replacing and replenishing because contracts are going to expire. Lou Dortz, Cason Wallace, is like, these contracts are going to expire, and they're just going to have guys waiting in the wings. So the Thunder had another terrific draft. Sam Presti is the GOAT for a reason, man. And then the 76ers, I think, also had one of the best picks of the first round, getting LeBaron Philon at 22. That guy was a lottery pick, locked to be a lottery pick in my eyes. And then the Spurs, Jaden Quintance and Terrace Reed Jr., 2 bigs to kind of counteract Wemby. And Quintance is a really interesting prospect because he did suffer an ACL injury, didn't play a whole lot at Kentucky, but he was the number 1 center per 247 Sports a year ago, 7'3", top 10 recruit a year ago, 5 stars. So that's interesting for sure for the Spurs, who go with him and Terrace Reed in the first round. So really interesting first round. I still think there's a lot of talent on the board. Malik Thomas from Arkansas, Isaiah Evans from Duke were 2 guys I mentioned on yesterday's episode. They're still out there. Isaiah Nelson was another guy that I mentioned on yesterday's episode. Ryan Conwell, the guard from Louisville, the running mate for Michael Brown Jr., nasty, great 3-point shooter, high volume 3-point shooter, really good running mate with Malik. My gosh, my brain is so fucking. My God, I need one timeout. My time. Really good running mate with Malik Brown, and even was able to carry the load as a number 1 scoring option when Malik Brown was injured last year. I think Felix Okpara can definitely bring value to an NBA team because of his tenacity defensively and his ability to crash the rebounds. Nick Boyd from Wisconsin was a firecracker, elite first step, really good athlete. And then Tyler Bilodeau is one of the most underrated stretch bigs in college basketball last year for UCLA. So I think those are some guys that are still available, and there's a lot of talent still on the board. Let's know and talk about the World Cup just a little bit. And what a terrific event this has been. I mean, it's unbelievable. Expanding the World Cup was awesome for a few reasons. One, we're going to get this round of 32 single elimination format that's going to be very reminiscent of March Madness. I think we're going to see some crazy, crazy stuff, some crazy upsets. We've already seen some crazy upsets or some crazy, crazy results like Cape Verde scratching and clawing a few draws. We're going to see some craziness go on in this round of 32 single elimination format. And because the field is so much bigger in the World Cup, we're seeing Messi, Ronaldo, Haaland, or these Mbappe, the best player. Well, Mbappe is doing against pretty good comp, but we're watching them stat pad against inferior comp, and that makes for an electric golden boot race, and it makes for an even more electric time on DraftKings Sportsbook. No free ads, but I've been an assassin on the sports books recently. Lamine Yamal is the guy I wanted to talk about because when I was watching them against, I don't think it was Cape Verde. Who did they play recently that they won? They were dominant performance. I think they scored like 3 goals in the first 25 minutes. Lamal scored his first. It was a tap in, but it was not an easy tap in. He had to make a run, and it was a really good run. And I did turn the game on after it was 3-0. But I'll tell you what, Lamine Yamal doesn't make those. I feel like he was uninspiring with the runs he would make off the ball. I feel like he wasn't really attacking and giving Pedri and Danny Olmo opportunities to find him in behind the defenders. I feel like he was just standing on the wing, waiting to get the ball, and then he would just attack, which is also really, really fair. But I feel like he wasn't making as many runs. He wasn't being as aggressive. He wasn't being like a high motor guy. And that does worry me a little bit. And I want to be the first on the record. But when he does have the ball on his feet, he's genuinely unbelievable. Lionel Messi is still the best player in the world. I mean, it's not just the goal scoring, it's the way people can't tackle him. The way he just glides through people is like prime Messi. It's like he hasn't missed a step. He is also incredibly clinical in the final third, minus that penalty that he missed. He just controls the entire game. His calmness when he's on the ball, his ability to feel areas in space where he can receive the ball. It's just he's still the best player in the world, and it's beyond just the goal scoring. He dictated that entire game. That entire game. I don't even remember who they played. Not Algeria, the first one where he was terrific, but the one they played more recently. Erling Haaland, nasty. I think Martin Odegaard has been terrific in this World Cup. Norway's defense concerns me, but it makes for really, really fun games to watch. So bet the over on Haaland and Norway, France, Haaland and Mbappe. Bet the over in that game. Although I think France is going to blow them out, quite frankly, because their offensive firepower is it better than Norway's offensive firepower. And Haaland's good for one or two, but not me. I don't know about two against France's back line. And I know France is going to run it up against Norway's defense that looked very, very suspect against Senegal, who were just got robbed also, by the way. There was a clear penalty in the box. They just didn't call it, didn't bother to go to the VR. The dude got literally clotheslined and they didn't call it. That's neither here nor there. Not that I had Sadio Mane would have taken the penalty. Sadio Mane would have made the penalty. I would have made $600. That's neither here nor there. I'm not worried about it at all. I'm not that upset about it. So stop asking. Luis Diaz has been terrific for Colombia. And I watched Colombia today. He created a lot of chances. He wasn't finishing. He needs to stay on sides, time his runs a little bit better. Colombia looked like a really, really impressive squad. They just lack a little bit of a little bit of composure and a little bit of they need to be a little bit more clinical in the final third. But Colombia is a team that I've been very impressed with, and maybe I've just watched them a little bit more than I've watched some of these other mid-tier teams. Like your Ivory Coast, I wasn't really able to sit down and watch them in totality because I was working, but they've been really impressive, is what a lot of people are saying. Norway's looked really impressive. Yeah, it's been a really, really fun World Cup. I'm really excited for the round of 32, and I'm really excited for these group stage games because like the slate going forward for the group stage is just terrific. Like if you're listening to this on Wednesday, the games today, there's just so many of them and they're finally going on at the same time. So you're just going to be overwhelmed, overstimulated. And that's how I like to operate. Like it's Bosnia and Qatar at 3 o'clock, Switzerland and Canada also at 3 o'clock, Morocco and Haiti at 6, Scotland and Brazil at 6, Czechia, Mexico at 9, South Africa, South Korea at 9. So it's a lot of like mid teams, obviously, but it's just a lot going on all at once. And then Thursday, Curacao, Ivory Coast, 4 o'clock, Ecuador, Germany, 4 o'clock, Japan, Sweden, 7 o'clock, Tunisia, Netherlands, 7 o'clock. Like keep coming with the double ups. I'm all here for the double ups. And then Friday and Saturday, we're gonna get into this Friday slate is peak, dude. Norway, France, Senegal, Iraq. I need a brace out of Sadio Mane. I need a brace out of Sadio Mane. Uruguay, Spain. That's really all there is on Friday. But it's just there's so many good games coming up. Croatia, Ghana, England. We got to talk about England today. Harry Kane missed a stinker, missed a sitter. Ghana has been a team that's been really interesting. I didn't really watch their first game, but I know they won on a game winner. And then they were just parking the bus against England today. And yeah, they just couldn't break through. I did fall asleep for the second half of that game because my parents are back in town now. They've been gone for like a month and a half, 2 months almost. So I've had the crib to myself. My parents got back in town today. My first day off where I didn't have to work, my day job in 2 weeks almost. My dad goes, "Yeah, we're gonna go drive an hour, pick up this fridge. You're gonna help me install it all day." And who am I to say no? I live in the dude's house. I'm not gonna be a prick. I'm obviously gonna help. And I don't mind. I didn't mind helping him, but it was just like my one day off and this is what I'm doing all fucking day. And I was tired because I also stayed up too late the night before, only got 4 hours of sleep. I fell asleep in the second half of the England game. Not proud of it, man enough to say. Either way, that's where we're at with the World Cup. Really, really entertaining stuff so far, and I'm excited to continue to watch this shit unfold. And it's been a really good America propaganda for us as well. Let's now rank the teams that finished last in their division in the NFL. How should I phrase this? We're going to rank the teams that finished last in their division last NFL season. I don't know how to phrase this that'd be good for YouTube here. Which NFL teams have the best chance of going last, of worst? Which teams have the best chance of going worst to first? All the teams that finished last in their division last year, we're going to rank them by which teams are most likely to win the division this year, all the way to which team has no shot to win the division this year. So the teams that finished last year, the Titans, the Lions, the Jets, the Giants, the Browns, the Cardinals, and I think that's all of them. I hope I listed all of them. The team that is without a doubt has the best chance of going worst to first in the NFL this season is the Detroit Lions. They finished first in the division in 2023 and in 2024. I think they have three players that are genuinely top five at their position on the defensive side of the ball. They just haven't been able to stay healthy. And that's Aiden Hutchinson, who I think is a top three edge rusher, Jack Campbell, who I think is a top 10 off ball linebacker, top three off ball linebacker, excuse me, and then Brian Branch, who's a top five safety when he's on the field. Kirby Joseph also has a case for a top 10 safety as well. So their defense has a chance to be really, really elite if they can get some league average cornerback play, please, out of DJ Reed, Terrion Arnold. I love the Keith Abney pick from Arizona State. I think they got him in the fourth, fifth round. I think that was my favorite, my most favorite value pick of the NFL draft. If I'm remembering correctly, it was like him, DeMonte Capehart, Billy Shrouth. I think those are two guys that were also in that conversation for like best value picks. I think both the guys went to the Buccaneers. By the way, Keith Abney, press man, feisty corner, a little bit undersized, but they need some cornerback production, man. DJ Reed at 5'10" can't be your CB1, even though he has put together some really productive years, especially on the Jets. That was as a CB2, even though he stayed on his own side, stayed on his own side. After Bob Saleh left, we saw a little bit of regression, and you saw some even more regression with DJ Reed last year. Terrion Arnold looks like a bust, so I don't know what they're doing at the cornerback position. They need somebody to step up there for this defense to really take another step. But Aleem McNeil is a really, really good player. Al-Quadid Muhammad is a really good player. Jack Campbell's a really good player. Aiden Hutchinson's a dog. Brian Branch is a dog. Kirby Joseph is a dog. So this Lions team easily is the number one team on this list when it comes of can they win the division after finishing last in the division a year ago? They were one game above 500. Like they are that good. I think their offensive line should be better this year, but if there's anything holding this team back, it would be their offensive line. They bring in Blake Miller through the draft and they signed Cade Mays, the center, I think from Carolina. So they do upgrade a little bit on the offensive line as long as Blake Miller pans out. But if he doesn't, there is a little bit to be concerned about. Jared Goff is a fringe top 10 quarterback. I'd say top 12, top 15, one of the best pocket passers in the NFL, gets that ball out, lightning speeds, really good receiving core, really good running back room as well. Now Isaiah Pacheco replacing David Montgomery. I think that's a little bit more concerning than a lot of people are leading on. I still think Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be fine, but that's a lot more carries going Gibbs' way that Monty really relieved him. And Monty was really nasty in the red zone for the Lions over the duration of his tenure there. But the Lions have to be number one. And then this is where we get into a little bit. It's like a little bit debatable. Where is the Saints? Because I think I had the Saints at 2 strictly because their division is the most volatile and their division is the weakest. But I do also think the Saints offense is going to be really, really special next year. I believe in Tyler Shough. Tyler Shough looked like an NFL quarterback over the back half of the season last year. and they added to this offense. They bring in the guard from Buffalo. They draft Jordan Tyson. I think Jordan Tyson, Chris Olave, top 10 receiving duo in the NFL immediately. Jordan Tyson was my wide receiver one. They bring in Travis Etienne, although I don't like the idea of paying a running back when you have holes to fill. Him and Kamara is a really good 1-2 punch, both really, really versatile weapons out at catching passes out of the backfield. They have a really solid group of weapons. Felice Fuaga, Troy Fatuanu, Cesar Ruiz, and now they bring in, I forget the guy's name. Is it David something? The guard that they got from Buffalo, really good player, one of the best offensive linemen in free agency. So their offensive line should be really solid. They have a really good group of weapons. And their defense last year, although they lost a few pieces, they lost to Mario Davis. They lost Alontae Taylor. Those are two of their top three leaders in tackles. Alontae Taylor was a really good corner for them. Their leader in interceptions over the last 2 seasons, I believe. So that hurts. But they also bring back Cam Jordan, who was the leader in sacks. Chase Young. Granderson is a really underrated player. Brian Breesy, I think his name is a really, really underrated player on that defensive line. They bring in Caden Ellis, who isn't the greatest off-ball linebacker, but at least it's kind of a stopgap for Demario Davis, who had really good production for them last year. Their defense shouldn't be a world beater, but I think their front seven, their defensive line is a little bit underrated. Kool-Aid McKinstry is a really, really good player, but really, I have the Saints at 2 because of the volatility of the division and because of how good this offense could potentially be. I have them at 2 for that reason. The Titans are at 3 for me, man. I think the Titans have a really solid roster all of a sudden. Their offensive line is really, really concerning. And that's going to be the difference from this Titans team making the playoffs next year or not. I do believe in Bob Saleh as a coach. I think he just was in the New York Jets and had to deal with Woody Johnson as an owner and everything that comes with being the head coach of the New York Jets. And they still had a couple of, like, their first season there, they won 7 games and then it fell off a cliff. He won 7 games with Mike White, Zach Wilson, and Joe Flacco. Okay. And the defense was always amongst the best in the NFL when Bob Saleh was there. And they made so many good moves on the defensive side of the ball. Cordell Flott, Alontae Taylor are 2 perfect scheme fits for a Bob Saleh defense because they don't run a lot of man coverage. Those guys get cooked in man coverage, but they're both really fast, rangy guys that have good ball skills and create a lot of turnovers if the front seven is doing their job and they're getting pressure on the quarterback. And you have Keldrick Falk, you have Jeffrey Simmons, you have Jermaine Johnson, you have John Franklin Myers. Jermaine Johnson and John Franklin Myers had some of the best seasons under Bob Saleh and Robert Saleh in this defensive scheme. So I think their defense is going to be terrific. I think their off-ball linebacker, Cedric Gray, was one of the most underrated off-ball linebackers in the league last year. They drafted Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas, who a lot of scouts had him as a highly touted linebacker prospect, not me personally, but either way, they have a lot more talent on the defensive side of the ball than they did a year ago, and they finally got Cam Ward some weapons. I mean, Wan'Dale Robinson and Carnell Tate is an infinite upgrade over Shamire DK and Alec Maynor. Like, that is just way, way better. I think, and I believe in Cam Ward too, although their division is tough. Their division is tough. Okay. But compared to some of the other teams on here, the division could be worse. Like, I think the Giants are the team that I have next on here. I think the Titans have a better roster defensively than the Giants, and I think offensively it might be there as well. If the Giants have a better offensive line, I think Cam Ward's better than Jackson Dart. I think Carnell Tate is going to play. I don't know if Malik Neighbors is going to play. Wan'Dale Robinson's better than Darius Slayton. So I think the Titans have a slightly better overall roster than the Giants, who have a lot of question marks defensively. And I do think the AFC South is not as good at the end as the NFC West or NFC East at the top. So that's why I have the Titans over the Giants. But the Giants are who I have next on this list. And this is predicated on if Jackson Dart takes a jump. If Jackson Dart takes a jump, why not? This offense can be really good. I think their offensive line can be one of the best units in the NFL because they did draft Maui Noah over Caleb Downs, a move that I have never been high on and will never be high on. I think Caleb Downs was a layup there for a Giants team that struggled in the secondary and struggled against the run, whatever. But Maui Noah, still a good player. I'm not going to hate too much on them for going trenches. And you can move him in and he can play right guard because they brought back Jermaine Illuminor, who is a really, really serviceable, slightly above average right tackle for this Giants offensive line. So him, Andrew Thomas, Maui Noah kicking in at guard. They should be able to run the football with Scadaboo and Tyrone Tracy, which should open things up for Jackson Dart. And if Malik Neighbors is playing, they finally have a little bit of weaponry. I hated their day 2 picks with like Reggie Virgil or Caleb Douglas, whichever the Texas Tech receiver they took. I just didn't like what they did addressing their receiving room, getting some more weapons for Dart. It's really just Malik Neighbors, and he might not even be 100%. That concerns me. Defensively, not good. I mean, they have really good group of edge rushers. Like Brian Burns is a top 5 edge rusher, top 6 edge rusher in the NFL. Kayvon Thibodeau, Abdul Carter had a really high pass rush win rate in his rookie season. The sky's the limit for that guy. But the interior of that defensive line is awful. They did get Arvell Reese, who's going to play as an off-ball linebacker hybrid in his rookie season. So I think him and Tremaine Edmonds is an upgrade over Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden. So they did upgrade their linebackers, which was a really, really big position of need for them. Their corners, they need good cornerback play if they want to do this, if they want to go from worst to first in the division, which again, highly unlikely, but we have to order them somehow. You need either Colton Hood, Tyler Nubin, or Drew Phillips, or Paulson Adebo. You need Paulson Adebo to regain his form like he was on the Saints when he had like a few interceptions and then he got injured or something. I don't remember exactly. You need Colton Hood to pan out and be league average at best right away. I don't think he's got that in him. I was never high on Colton Hood. You need Javon Hollander to return to Miami Dolphins form. Then you need Tyler Nubin or Drew Phillips. Tyler Nubin's a good player. Drew Phillips is a good player according to my Giants fan sources. They need to continue to play at the level that they've been playing at. And then that's a lot. The Giants secondary can be decent. That's a lot of things that need to happen. So I don't think it's going to happen. But if there was a team, but I think they have a better chance than some of these other teams that finished last in the division last year. And the next team I have on here is Cleveland. So far, just to recap, I have the Lions at 1, layup, Saints at 2, Titans at 3, Giants at 4, Browns at 5. I think the Browns genuinely have a good roster. I think Mason Graham is a really good player, and they had a defensive player of the year or defensive rookie of the year on their team, and it wasn't the guy they took third overall on the defensive line. It was Carson Schlesinger. Grant Delpit, top 15, top 20 safety, slightly above league average. At least that's what everybody tells me in my comments section. I was not familiar with Grant Delpit's game. I'm gonna be so honest. At least recently, like I was high on him when he was coming out of LSU. I thought he kind of tailed off a little bit, but everybody was telling me, yeah, Grant Delpit's a top 10 safety. Why didn't you have him in here? Blah 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 blah. Whatever. Denzel Ward, top 10 corner. Carson Schlesinger. Their other interior defensive lineman, Malik, I'm forgetting his last name, really underrated player because I'm forgetting his last name. Jared Verse, Mason Graham. They have guys on the defensive side of the ball. And then offensively, Spencer Fano. They bring in Zion Johnson. They should be able to run the ball effectively with Quinshon Judkins. And all of a sudden, their receiving core is looking solid. I love Casey Concepcion. He was my wide receiver 4, closer to Malik or to Makai Lemon than a lot of people had him. I love Denzel Boston is a really good physical, good red zone threat. And then Jerry Jeudy's still there as well. So and Harold Fannin last year was awesome. So they put together a couple of really, really good drafts. I think their roster is good. And the reason I have the Browns over the Jets is because I think the Browns roster, 1, is slightly better. And 2, I don't trust the teams at the top of the NFC North or AFC North the way I trust the teams at the top of the AFCs. Like I trust the Bills or the Patriots to win that division more than I trust the Bengals or the Ravens to win the division in the North. That's why I have the Browns edging out the New York Jets. And I think the Jets offense could actually be really good next year. And I have the Jets over the Raiders. So it's Jets, Raiders, Cardinals. That's how we round it out. I think the Jets roster is way better than the Raiders, way better than the Cardinals, and their division isn't as hard as the Raiders or Cardinals division is. I think the Jets offense could be good. I think it could. Geno Smith was awful in 2025, but the Raiders O-line sucked, and his wide receiver 1 was Jacoby Myers for like 5 games before he got traded. Garrett Wilson, Kenyon Sadiq, Omar Cooper, A.D. Mitchell, Breece Hall behind this Jets offensive line that should be good. It should be good next year. That's way better supporting cast than he had in Vegas. The problem is the Jets defense might be dog shit. I mean, they had no interceptions last year, and they did do the right thing in bringing a guy in Minkah Fitzpatrick, who's been a ball hawk before in his career. They brought in Deshaun Wright, who had a handful of interceptions for that Bears defense, but he got burnt a shit ton in that Bears secondary. Drafted D'Angelo Ponzo, who had a good amount of interceptions and turnover-worthy plays for Indiana last year in their title run. They brought in guys that can create turnovers, and they brought in some depth on their defensive line with David Onyemata. They drafted David Bailey and guys like that. So I do think the Jets defense is trending in the right direction. Mika and like up the middle, I think it got so much better. T'Vondre Sweat, Mika Fitzpatrick, Demario Davis, right? That's still not great. I mean, Mika's a fossil. Demario Davis is a fossil. T'Vondre Sweat's like 390 pounds. He should clog some holes in the run game. They should be way better against the run than they were a year ago, but their corners on the outside simply can't cover. We're looking at Nashawn Wright and Brandon Stevens. That's not going to cut it, but the offense can be really, really good. And who knows if Brandon Stevens takes a step, if David Bailey has a defensive rookie of the year campaign and he can be a 10.5 sack guy and be a plus edge defender in the run game, if D'Angelo Pons can have a terrific year, which I think he will, he was one of my favorite players in the draft. If AZ Thomas can take a step, they took him in the 3rd round last year, and he can be a starting corner. If Brandon Stevens gets his head out of his ass, he can be a starting corner. If Mika Fitzpatrick finds a little bit of youth and can be a ball hawk, then all of a sudden the Jets defense is really solid. And if Geno Smith doesn't piss down his leg, I think this offense can be really good as well. And all of a sudden the Jets win the division, right? I just think they're better than the Raiders. The Raiders roster is still awful. Like, it's still awful. It's better. I don't even know if it's better than the Cardinals, but the Cardinals are just in the hardest division in the NFL, and I don't see a world where they possibly win it all or win the NFC West. But like, maybe Fernando Mendoza just catches fire and is disgusting. Maybe Jalen Nailor is a home run free agency pick. Maybe they do still have Brock Bowers. They signed Tyler Linderbaum. He should improve that run game a whole lot, and maybe they just lean on Genty and they scrape their way to 10, 11 wins, and all of a sudden they find themselves winning the NFC West or the AFC West if Fernando Mendoza is that guy. But the reality is their receiving core sucks. Their O-line is better, but it still sucks. Their receiving core sucks, double sucks, triple sucks. Jalen Nailor, Trey Tucker, it's disgusting. Their D-line outside of Max Crosby sucks. Their secondary, honestly, pretty solid. Like, Eric Stokes is a good player. Teron Johnson from Buffalo, one of the best nickel corners in the NFL. And they drafted Jermod McCoy in the 4th round, who was a first-round talent on a lot of people's boards. Nakobe Dean, Quay Walker, good off-ball linebackers. I don't think that transcends their defense a whole lot. But other than their corners, other than their off-ball linebackers and Max Crosby, the defense is garbage. Although that is like half their defense. So half their defense is garbage. I don't think they'll be able to stop the run because you need guys that can clog holes on the interior of your defensive line to give your off-ball linebackers opportunities to make plays. And the reality is Quay Walker wasn't even the best linebacker on his team. Nakobe Dean wasn't even the second best linebacker on his team last year. I don't think they moved the needle that much. Their offensive line is still meh. It should be better, but it's still meh. The receiving core is awful. I just don't see it. And the Raiders are a Bo Nix injury away from making the Super Bowl. The Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. Justin Herbert has Mike McDaniel and healthy tackles. I don't think they have a chance. And the Cardinals have no chance. I mean, I think their weapons are nasty. Jeremiah Love, Trey McBride, Trey McBride, best tight end, one of the best pass catching tight ends in the NFL. Michael Wilson was legitimately a top 10, top 15 receiver production wise in the back half of the season last year. Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't hit his ceiling yet. They did have Kendrick Bourne, who's one of the best receiver threes, in my opinion, in the NFL. He torched the Rams on that random Thursday night football game with Mac Jones. Jeremiah Love's one of the best running back prospects in the NFL, but their offensive line is all over the place. I do like the Isaac Seumalo, and I do like the Chase Basantas picks, though. So their interior offensive line should be better. I think they'll be able to run the ball pretty solid, but their defense is just shambolic. Their best defensive player might not even want to play for them, and that's Josh Sweat. Walter Nolan can't stay healthy. The rookie out of Ole Miss last year, when he was healthy, he was productive. Will Johnson was terrific when he was on the field, but outside of that, their linebackers are bad. Buda Baker's regressed. Their defense is just bad, and they're in the hardest division. They got the 2 best teams in the NFL in their division, and then a team coached by Kyle Shanahan with probably 4 or 5 Hall of Famers on it. So I don't see them in a single world where the Cardinals win the NFC West. Those are the rankings of the teams that have the best chance of going worst to first in the NFL. Hit that subscribe button. I love you guys. I'll talk to you guys in the next episode of the Fire Sports Takes podcast.